Hello, everyone, and welcome. I am Sharea, and I am here to guide you through the journey of your personal and professional growth. Today, we are going to unpack a topic that's absolutely vital for counselors and other mental health professionals: continuing education. Or in some places, you may hear continuing education units or CEs or CEUs. Whether you're just starting or you're a seasoned practitioner, I promise you'll walk away with some form of clarity around practical ways to make sure that you're taking care of your professional development. So let's dive right in. So what exactly is continuing education or continuing education units or CEs? You'll hear it a number of different ways. Think of it like this: ongoing professional education that continues you towards your sharpening and ethical and trauma focused or trauma informed approach to your profession. And so, really, what that means is that you're not just a checkbox for your license, but they're actually ladders for you to climb in terms of gaining expertise and skills that impact your work. This is important because it has helped me personally to make sure that when I'm focusing on my continuing education, that I sharpen my areas to support the types of clients that I am actually thriving with in my own practice. And so that becomes the first definition, is really continuing steps that keep us sharp, both ethically and informed with our actual, I guess, work and guide towards what we want to do. So think of it that way. So why would that even matter? So why does CEs matter? Well, they matter for a number of reasons, but I'm going to give you what I consider are five heartbeats behind it. And so the first thing is maintaining your licensures. Most states require us to have between 20 and 40 hours every renewal cycle. Those renewal cycles can be different depending on your state. And so for some of us, we have to do the 20 a year, and then for others, you have to do the 40 every for 2 years. And so looking at it or determining from your state mandates, this is why we first need our continuing educations to be actually credited and actually approved so that we can actually continue to be licensed. But when we think about it, more importantly, one number two, which is to fuel our professional growth, we want to be able to constantly and frequently gain new tools, techniques, and frameworks that support those who are we're working with, as well, that are reflective of some of the things that our world is going through and some of the systemic issues that we're going through that might impact our clients. This third one is just that: staying current. The world of mental health professionals, counseling, therapy, clinicians, whatever you want to label yourselves, is always shifting. So you want to be able to stay up to date with language, knowledge around areas that you are considered an expert in, or growing to be an expert in. So keeping your CEOs gives you that. It's a step to make sure that you're staying current and relevant in the areas of expertise that you claim to be, right? Because that's going to be important. Because the next thing about that five heartbeats, member, is to uphold our ethics. Many of our requirements around licensure require us to focus on the ethics behind what we're doing. Our moral compass needs updating every now and then. So it becomes extremely important to remember that in order to stay focused, you want to update and continue to update your ethics in all the areas that you consider yourself a professional. And then last but definitely not least, especially specialize in niche and mindfulness, whether that's in trauma, cultural competency, AI. Being able to establish a strong sense of identity within your role comes from being able to adapt and create continuing educations around who you want to be or where you see yourself going professionally. And so when you think about that, you want your CEs to be your ticket to your success around specializing and creating your true niche in the area of service and impact. So those are our five heartbeats: maintaining licensure, fueling our professional growth, staying current, upholding our ethics, and then specializing mindfully. That's really what we want to try to think about when we're thinking about our why is this even important? And so Again, those requirements that I talked about, and just so that you're aware, they vary state to state, is that you got to look at 20 to 40 continuing education credits or hours within 2-year periods most times. At least half must be approved providers. And so depending on where you are, you want to make sure before you take a class or take a course that you are actually making sure it's approved by a provider that allows you to get credits towards your licensure in your particular state. And then some requirements are specific to topics like ethics, cultural competency, and then also for clinical professionals or clinicians. In some states, there's requirements around those things and mandating reporting, all types of requirements around specific topics. So you want to know your state rules specifically. And then document everything. Certificates should have your name, your state, and the course name, date, and hours earned. And so those things are important for you to be able to see when you're submitting it and or if you're audited by your state where they know that your certificate is legit because they're approved provider. They have your state name, and in some cases, I make sure that they on our particular certificates, we also make sure it has your state license number on there, the course, the date of that course, if it's a live one webinar versus a recorded one, and the hours earned. And so those are things that you want to kind of make sure before you submit to your state any certificates that they have that those things listed. And then just a little tip, keep some type of continuing education folder, digital or paper. I prefer digital because now I think the world is just paperless if you can do it. I have a folder in my Google Drive where I literally just upload all of my certificates. And then I have a tracker where I just have the names and the dates. So that way, if I'm just putting in and or if I'm audited, I can go to or have the information right on hand. And so think about being able to can create that CE file folder in any way that you see possible. And for me, it just happens to be digital. And so I guess when we're thinking about continuing education, some hot topics to always make sure you're staying abreast in is trauma informed care, AI, and the ethics and the application for my particular self. I do believe in making sure that I have very specific therapeutic skills that might be EMDR, somatic therapy, ACT. It might be a number of different approaches that you can use in your profession that you want to make sure that your continuing educations are being aware or are being specifically under those areas. But never forget cultural competency, ethics, um, mandatory reporting. In some states, they're very specific around opioids and substance use that you have to have requirements for. And so, really making sure that you're finding those areas that you need. I also think now, because more than ever, we are online, telehealth best practices, group therapy techniques, and just ethical refreshers are just some of the areas that are beneficial to stay on top of until, especially if you're not sure which route you want to go in terms of professional development and where you see yourself in terms of 4 or 5 to 10 years out. They're not just credits, they're skills, and they also help you to direct towards your future. But those are just some of the things to think about. And I'm thinking, where can I find CEUs is also an important part of this. So I would check out our professional associations like NASW, NBCC, ACA. I know specifically for ACE, as an ACE provider, they have website that is dedicated to the providers and telling you what courses are currently active and being able to link you to those URLs right from their page, making sure that you're aware of those professional associations, conferences, and workshops. So if they're online or in person, can be beneficial and also can help you to collect your continuing education. Universities and academic institutions usually are approved by the states to do continuing education. And I'm trying to think of other ones just so. And clinical supervision, yes, sometimes that even counts. I know for New Jersey, we have the requirement of a 20 credit certificate for clinical supervision. And so before you can even supervise anyone for social work, I can't speak for LPCs, but for social works, before you can even supervise others, you have to be in the field for a number of years as well as have that certificate. But it's also 20 credits towards your CEs for that 2-year cycle. So that's something to think about as you're developing and keeping track of where can you get these continuing education. My checklist for kind of just thinking about how I'm going to plan for the 2-year cycle here in New Jersey is to plan ahead. Don't scramble at the last minute. My first few years, I tell you, I probably scrambled more than I would like to admit. But the truth is that that's not always helpful. So going back to that planner and tracking and seeing how many credits that you have each year. Usually I do it end of the year, December, check to see if I'm close enough because I know that our cycle is the even years of every 2 years. And so I know that by next year or the following year, I need to have these credits. So I'm going to plan ahead and see how many that I need. Diversify your topics, expand beyond your usual. Sometimes when we're rushing to the last minute, we can't always do that, but try to plan and think about what could I learn that might challenge me or grow me a little bit more. Remember to track. Taking care of your records is going to help, especially if you're ever audited or if anyone ever has a challenge against your license. Align with your goals. Focus on where you want to go. I know sometimes early in our career, we have no idea what that looks like. But if you find something that you're tending to you hear about or it feels like it's something that you could love, consider really trying to hone in and learn about that and try to really make it practical with your continuing education and the work that you're doing in your field. Engage fully, ask questions, take notes, be present in these trainings. Sometimes we are in webinars or we're hearing from experts and we're not paying attention because we're trying to do a million things. But during these continuing educations, think of it as your professional development, but also your time to break up away from your actual work so that you can learn to do your work better and share what you're learning. Host some brown paper bag sessions where you come together for lunch or some lunch and chats, discussions, or even in some social media or Facebook groups or groups that you might be a part of. Think about ways that you can discuss these topics so that you can also develop and continue to learn in those areas. To wrap it up, continuing educations are more than just a requirement. They are our stepping stones to becoming the best mental health professional we can be and the best social worker, the best counselor. So set your goals and choose your topics that sharpen your passion and stay curious. If you want links to top CE providers or want to walk through any of your planning of your next, hit me up. I'm fine with that. If I can, in the comment section, if I can answer any questions or if I can help to assist you in your planning towards your professional growth, feel free to do so. I'll keep shining a spotlight on professional growth and our steps towards there. Until next time, I'm Sharea Farmer, cheering you on and looking forward to you keeping up the good learning and good work. Take care.